What's up, everyone? Welcome to Pat's Chat. I'm Doug Kyed, joined as always by Michael Hurley. Michael, we are not going to wait until the end of the show to promote what we've been failing to promote at the top of the show weeks on end. But first of all, how are you doing?
I'm good, Doug. I'm excited. There's only 37 days until the draft. Can you believe it's sneaking up on us? I can't believe it.
Truly, really so close at this point. But if you're into the draft, come out to our Patriots pre-draft event at Vitamin C in Weymouth. Big breaking news. Michael Hurley will be there. He'll be on the panel. Bigger breaking news. Sorry about this.
Hmm.
The Boston Be a Man guy is going to be there to
I
take
saw
pictures
that.
with people. Biggest breaking news, Patriots wide receiver Damari Douglas is going to be there as part of the Q&A and everything. So really fun gets, really fun guests. Sorry to make you be the first of the big breaking news, but yeah, it's going to be a good night.
I think, Doug, let's add one more. We
Yeah.
haven't discussed this. When the music was playing there, I'm like, oh, I'll bring my drums. You bring the guitar.
Oh,
We'll play the
wow.
Pat's Chat theme.
That would be sick.
All 15 seconds of it. Just like a cool mellow tune we'll play for the crowd.
There we go. I think that's a great idea. That will probably not happen because we won't have time to practice, but that would have been fun. But no, it's $25. All proceeds go to Leukemia Lymphoma Society for my Visionaries of the Year campaign. I'm raising $100,000 for LLS to honor my daughter Hallie. And this event has been, it's been like promoting and hosting events, more work than you might think.
Oh, no.
It's a lot that's gone into it, but I'm happy that's finally coming on Thursday. Should be a good time. Should be fun. We've got some great raffle and auction items that you can already bid on. We'll put all of the links and all the fun stuff in the podcast description, in the YouTube description. But yeah, I think that's where we're at. So it should be a
Hmm.
good time. It's like a live Pats chat, live Pats interference, live Six Rings, live whatever podcast all of our other
It's
guests
like
are on.
it's like the Avengers, except
Yes.
not much strength or impressiveness, just a bunch of people with microphones.
But Jeff Howe will be there. Mike Giardi will be there. Fitzy will be there. Andrew Callahan will be there. As we mentioned, Mario Douglas, Michael Hurley, Boston Be a Man, Mark Daniels. I probably forgot someone, but there's even going to be people there who aren't advertised. So will be in the crowd who you can say hi to and
Mhm.
chill with. But yeah, let's get into the show now that we've done a better job promoting this than we ever have before. Some interesting news broke this week, and that's that the Giants are going to hold a private workout with Shedeur Sanders,
Mhm.
which even if like there's no possibility that they're actually going to draft him, I just really want to thank them for doing this because it made the week leading up to the draft a lot more interesting than it previously had been.
Yeah. It definitely was kind of a stop you in your tracks, like, oh, this isn't quite as done as it seems. It probably, I don't know how much it changes the overall scope of that first three picks. And was it you that asked Vrabel yesterday, like, hey, do you know anything more about who's picking in front of you?
I did ask him
And,
that, yeah,
and
yeah.
did you notice the two teams you mentioned that aren't communicating with them? He's like, well, the Titans aren't letting us know. The Browns aren't letting us know. It's like, are the Giants letting you know? Like, what's
To
going on
be
there?
fair, I think he was saying that because he has worked for both of those teams.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess so.
Yeah, but still, yes, he did not. It's possible the Giants are like, "Hey, we're taking this guy."
Yeah, I doubt it, but I found that at least interesting.
Ryan
But
Cowden did work for the Giants, though, so there's connections with all three teams above them.
yeah, not that those teams would just broadcast it, but if deals were to be made, I don't know. I think it's like you said, it certainly adds some juice because I read Mike Reese on Sunday, as I do whenever I remember to,
Hmm.
and there was a lot pointing to Will Campbell, and I was like, all right, the skids are being greased. Then Will Campbell's the pick, and now at least there's a little bit of intrigue.
Yeah, and so this opens up the possibility. We've been dancing around it, but opens up the possibility that Abdul Carter could be there at number 4 overall. And it does feel like, and it's felt like for months, if Hunter or Carter are there, then the Patriots would pick them. If they're not, does seem to kind of be leaning towards Will Campbell. But it's certainly interesting that Abdul Carter did take a visit to the Patriots. He took a 30 visit to the Patriots. He only took them with the top 4 teams, which tells you that, first of all, his agency, and he believed that it's possible that he could slip past the Giants to the Patriots at number 4 overall. And it also tells him the fact that he didn't go to like the Jaguars or the Raiders, that he believes that at the very lowest he would be picked is number 4 overall to the Patriots. So he seems to believe that the Patriots will take him. He's not without risks. You've talked about the foot injury. There's been some recent reporting, I think, about like character wise, but Mike Vrabel even said yesterday, like, you can't make a team out of a bunch of good guys. Like, you need some talent at some point. And I don't think that's him saying that Abdul Carter is not a good guy, but like, you do have to deal with different personalities. And I do think one of the issues, no, that's not fair. But yeah, no, like, I think that Carter would be a great pick. And that's really a best case scenario for the Patriots at this point, is that the Giants fool themselves into thinking that Shedeur Sanders is the way that people can keep their jobs by taking him number 3 overall.
Which I don't buy.
The Patriots would take him at 4.
Because play that out. This is a franchise in New York that just signed 2 veteran quarterbacks to real money in Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson for reasons none of us quite understand. And they're going to take a rookie quarterback who's far from a sure thing. This isn't like a Trevor Lawrence, Andrew Luck type pick. This is a pick that, like I said last week, Pro Football Focus has as the 45th ranked prospect in this draft.
Yeah.
I don't see 2 guys that are, I don't want to say on their last legs, but certainly they're entering on the hot seat. Like, there were thoughts that Daboll could be fired last year. Mm-hmm. He wasn't. There were thoughts in my head that Joe Shane would be fired at some point, but he hasn't. I don't see them making this pick unless they think it buys them a couple years, but I don't think it works like that.
Well, so let's say that Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston start the season, and then they do something similar to what the Patriots did last year with Drake May, where, like, let's say like week 5, 6, whatever it is, Shedeur comes in to start, and he plays better than people expect him to. Like, he has that Daniel Jones season from when Brian Daboll took over, and people are like, oh wow. Like, I'm not saying he's going to be like Drake May from last year, but if he's, like I said, better than people think he would be, then maybe you do say like, hey, Brian Daboll did a good job with Josh Allen, had that one good season with Daniel Jones. If we want to keep developing Shedeur Sanders, seems like Daboll might be the guy to do it. He's doing well with Shedeur. So I think that, like, that's the path for him keeping his job, right?
I guess. It just feels like it's hard to figure out what the hell they did with the 2 veteran quarterbacks.
For sure.
With the 3rd overall pick, where the quarterback seemed to, I just, it's hard to really play out. But maybe a lot of teams in the NFL, I don't know if you know this is a little inside baseball here, but football, a lot of teams are dumbasses, and maybe they're just being dumbasses, and they'll just make a pick, and the Patriots would benefit from that, I think. But what one more possibility that while you were talking is last week you said, well, what if normally if the trade return, if you trade out of 4 would be X, what if you have to sell on 10 cents on the dollar just because of the year? Is also the possibility, if Abdul Carter is there, that trading out of 4 down to, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, 9 becomes actually valuable. And maybe you do get a couple firsts and a second and a third or whatever it may be, because a game-changing type player is there. And not that the Patriots couldn't use Abdul Carter, but as we've stated countless times, they need a lot more than Abdul Carter.
Right. And I would still advocate for them taking Abdul Carter there at number 4 overall. But like, if you're playing at the scenario of, if you take Abdul Carter at number 4 overall, you're probably going to have to then trade back into the first round to get your left tackle. Whereas if you trade down and get Will Campbell at number 4 overall, you can get a serviceable pass rusher at the top of the second round. There's like a good chunk of players there.
What if you can trade out of 4 to 7, still get Will Campbell?
Well, yeah, no. Well, that's what I'm saying is that like, it's either Abdul Carter and you trade back in the first round for a left tackle, or it's Will Campbell and then you sit at number 2 in the second round and take a pass rusher. Like, there's a debate there about which scenario is better. I still do probably think that like Carter's good enough that that's still the better situation, but it takes some maneuvering to work it out.
Yeah. I have a feeling, I don't think I need to qualify this, but I don't know this. I feel this, that a lot of teams are going to be trying to move up into late in the first round. It feels like this will be more than usual. So it's not as if it's like, oh, just trade up.
Exactly.
There's going to be competition. You have to overpay, and it's going to be uncomfortable. And for a team that needs every last asset at its disposal, it may not be ideal. So I don't know. It's at least more intriguing because let's say the Giants take Carter, or Carter's off the board, and you're sitting there, and Hunter's gone, and Carter's gone.
Yep.
That draft stinks for us.
Right. Yeah.
I'm sure it could still work out. I'm not evaluating every player in the draft. I'm just telling you, from the TV show perspective, that'd be like, oh man.
Yeah, it won't be the most entertaining scenario if that happens. I will also throw out another scenario. Giants are sitting there at 3. Shedeur Sanders, Abdul Carter, both on the board. At that point, can't they kind of leverage the Patriots and the Jaguars and maybe some other teams below them to say, like, do you want Abdul Carter? Give us, like, fight amongst yourselves. Who's going to give us the most? Like, don't they actually, if they want Shedeur Sanders, or if they're interested in Shedeur Sanders, they know the Patriots aren't going to take him. They know that the Jaguars aren't going to take him. They know that the Raiders probably aren't going to take him. So they don't really have to worry about, like, maybe the Jets, maybe the Saints or Steelers. They could actually then trade down at that point, still get Shedeur Sanders and get something. And, like, you could say from a Patriots perspective, like, why would you trade up one spot if you know the Giants aren't going to take Abdul Carter, and if they want Shedeur Sanders, it's like
it's defense.
Yeah, because you're then fighting against the possibility that the Jaguars or someone else is willing to trade it for Abdul Carter. So I wouldn't completely rule that out either. And that's not coming from, like, sourcing or anything like that. It's just like, it's another possibility to throw out there that, like, if you feel passionate enough about landing Abdul Carter, there's a scenario where you might have to trade up for him.
Which, as we first reported on Pat's Chat podcast several years ago, Vrabel leapfrogged the Patriots to take, was it Rashaan Evans?
Rashaan Evans, yep.
And so he's played that game before on that side of it. So it's certainly something that won't catch anyone by surprise. But I don't know. There's I said 37 days, 8 days until we actually get an answer to this, which is, thank God, because this has been, I will say, the most uncertainty. And now, granted, we're pretty comfortable with the number 1 pick, but even that took a while to cement. It felt like the Titans were considering all sorts of things.
Yeah.
But, and maybe the 2 is more cemented than we want to say.
It does seem that way. Like, no one's really talking about the Browns at number 2, so it does feel like they're probably taking Hunter.
Yeah, but still, I mean, it's as wide open as I can really remember it. And if, let's say the Browns went somewhere else with that pick, maybe they do go Carter. I don't know. It wouldn't be surprising at all. I don't think so. This is just sort of a chaotic draft season. So as much as I think I'd prefer that, I'm also excited to see it come to an end.
My hot, no, it's not a take. My bold prediction is that the Saints stay at number 9 and take a quarterback that no one's expecting them, like that no one would expect to go that high. Like, if
is Dart
stick at number 9, if it was like Dart or Tyler Show, that wouldn't shock me.
Well, yeah, that was big news since we last talked. Is Derek Carr
has a phantom shoulder injury, not
randomly,
phantom, but like mystery shoulder injury.
Was he snowboarding? Was he motorcycling? Was he playing basketball? What was he doing? I want to know.
He was getting a guaranteed contract and then revealing that it was a shoulder injury months later. So
it's crazy.
That's one aspect of it. But, like, they're just crazy enough to be like to do the Bo Nix thing from last year, where they shock everyone and take a quarter, or like the Atlanta Falcons thing from a year ago, and, like, take a quarterback way earlier than you expect them to. And, like, if the Giants don't take Sanders, another bold prediction, wouldn't shock me if the Saints took a quarterback before Sanders, if they wound up taking, like, Dart or Show before Sanders comes off the board. Yeah.
And one factor there, we were talking about NFL teams being dumbasses. I think the Saints would qualify as a potential dumbass position there. So whether that's a good move or a bad move, the dumbass potential, the quotient would be pretty high.
I do want to throw out there to anyone, whoever says that the salary cap isn't real. And, like, I understand where people come from on that opinion, but, like, I would just like to point out to the last few years of the Saints as being like, do you really want to get into this sort of salary cap hell where every single year you have to just keep extending old guys because you can't get out of their contract, and it's the only way to free up cap space. Like
Right.
on most teams, Alvin Kamara and like Cam Jordan and these guys like would not still be on the teams because teams would not want to pay them the amount of money that they are. But the
Right.
Saints have trapped themselves into keeping those guys on the roster because the alternative is like extracting $50 million in cap space by releasing them.
Right. I think the cap is false. That there's no cap narrative or whatever. It needs like just the smallest bit of nuance. It's not like it's some sophisticated thing. It's like, yes, in any given year you can do whatever the hell you want. You could probably get away with it for a couple years, but at a certain point there are sort of rules that have to be followed. And I always say like, so there's no salary cap, right? Like it's all pretend. Tyreek Hill, then he's on the Chiefs, right?
Right. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Like Stephon Diggs, he's still on the Vikings, right? Like why is there a big high price receiver that hits the market every year?
Yeah.
It's because there are some constraints, and I just feel like that bit of nuance is always overlooked for some. Like, why do people want the salary cap to be fake? I don't, because it makes the owners look bad. Is that what we're getting at?
I think so. I think that's the
That's
take, is
fine.
that, like you want to call the owners cheap, so
Yeah.
you say that the salary cap isn't real, but like,
Which I'm fine with for the most
Yeah.
part, but like you do have to be real about it.
but like, and also like Bill Belichick was the biggest salary, like he would spend up to the salary cap, and like he's not an NFL owner, so. And I would just want to throw out there, Alvin Kamara is 30 years old. If the Saints were to cut him right now, they would subtract $18 million in cap space. Cameron Jordan is 36 years old. If the Saints were to cut him right now, they would subtract $18.7 million in cap space. And Demario Davis is also 36 years old. And if they cut him right now, they would subtract $14.2 million in cap space. So like, if you want some really old guys to be on your roster and have no possible way to get out of their contracts, there's no salary cap, and you can just be the Saints.
So those are, when you say like those would be the dead cap hits, is what you're saying?
That, like
they would gain cap space.
They would subtract cap space. So currently, the Saints have, they actually currently have $27 million in cap space. If they were to cut Alvin Kamara, they would then have like $9 million in cap space.
Yeah.
If they were to cut Demario Davis, if they were to cut them, then they would have like negative $9 million in cap space. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So, yes, I wasn't phrasing that the best way. Yeah, but
that's one of the. Do you want to do leftover screw ups in the Tom Brady end of the Patriots? Is like, not only did they let Tom Brady walk and he went and won a Super Bowl and was great, is like they carried a $13 million dead cap hit the next year. It's like, who planned this? Like, who's in charge here? That's it was Bill.
I haven't read Bill's book, but apparently he says that they parted ways with Tom Brady over like money constraints.
Which, right, he wanted 2 years, $50 million. Like, I don't think that's news.
But
it's like
at the time, that was the biggest bargain in sports.
Yeah,
and it's only gotten more comical since then. Like, quarterbacks are signing now for like $55 million per year, and that
like
was only
Tua.
5 years ago. Yeah.
And I'm not convinced Tua is
4 years
good.
Ago.
Yeah,
right. The going rate for a quarterback is over $50 million a year.
Right.
And the Patriots wouldn't pay Tom Brady 2 years, $50 million.
Yeah.
4 years ago, 5 years ago.
It's one of those things, and Bill used to do it a lot. Bill would fudge numbers to his favor when speaking publicly. Like the most famous one being like 4th and 2 in Indy, we didn't get the yard. Like if he had to downplay it for one way or overplay it one way, so it's like this is a case of it was a money issue. It's like, well, the issue was you didn't offer him a contract which would have had money attached to it. You said, suck one. Here's an incentive laden. Remember the incentive laden deal he got in 2019?
Oh yeah.
And he didn't hit any of them because he was throwing in N'Keal Harry and Ben Watson out of retirement and all that. And it was like, oh, that didn't work out, did it?
Yeah.
Or was it 18? It was 18. I think he hit them in 17 because he was the MVP. Right. And then they gave him again in 18. And then I think he guaranteed his salary in 19.
I find it difficult to talk about the current Bill Belichick situation and like the position that we're in, but like,
I don't.
The whole Jordan emails thing and how she's so heavily part of UNC, it's a real it feels like kind of a shit situation for UNC to some degree. And like they put themselves in this situation.
Yeah.
But it does feel like one of those where you're like, I don't know if this is going to end that well, because I don't think that UNC has the most talented roster.
Right.
I have faith in Bill Belichick as a head football coach.
Yeah.
But I also was around to see the last couple of years of him with the Patriots. Like, I think that everyone just assumed when he went there that like, oh man, he's going to turn that program around. It's going to be awesome. This is going to be sick. I don't like, things seem to be going pretty weird there. And then also, no one cares about this. I always say no one cares about the media. The article that came out that like they had practices without jersey numbers. No players spoke after spring practices. Bill Belichick only spoke once after spring practices. No other coaches spoke. This is what it looks like when Bill Belichick no longer has like media constraints of the NFL. And listen, Bill knows what he's doing more than I do. But if things don't go well right away and you haven't built any sort of favor with like the local media down there and they don't look at him as like the legend that New England media did, there's really no reason for them not to turn on him if he's not going to do them any favors whatsoever. I don't know. Like it's going to be interesting to see how he fares in a new market, I think.
Yeah. That video is just like, get off the field.
And like stiletto heels.
What are you doing on get off the field? It's football practice. Get off the field. Like if you want to do the social media and all that, that's one thing, but it just feels like Bill has lost contain of his job where it's like, get off the field. What are you like? This is football practice.
He's Jabal Sheard out there losing the edge.
Yeah, exactly. He
can't rush upfield.
No, he's more like the left guard getting bull rushed and knocked on his behind. It's just there's no control over it. It just feels like, but I did just check the date. It's April 16th, so that means a month and a half from now will be June 1st, which means the Cowboys can buy him out and make him the head coach of the Cowboys. But yeah, it does seem like a cluster, and it's one of those things. I don't know if he was taken over. I'd feel better about if he was taken over like Alabama after Saban or something, where it's like the program is humming. This is a UNC football team. Between the two of us, how much UNC football lore could we come up with in the next 10 minutes? Like Lawrence Taylor, got that. Just said Jabril Peppers. Julius Peppers. We got him.
I think Hakeem Nicks went there.
Hakeem Nicks. Yep. But we're talking about players.
Drake May, of course.
Yep. But can you mention a game they played in the history of Tar Heels football?
We have done this before. Like their heyday was before we were born. I think it was like during the Lawrence Taylor days. So it was, and like we're not young at this point. So that was a long time ago.
Well, we're the perfect age, as we've stated.
We are the perfect age.
I don't know. That's what I'm saying is like he's going in there, and I told you this I first reported on the Pats Chat podcast. I saw the UNC Tar Heels in person last year play the worst football game I've ever seen a football team play. They were awful. They could barely snap the ball. They were like the little giants. Yeah. So rosters turn over a lot more in college than they used to, but the fact that they were that bad and could very well continue to be that bad, it just makes me wonder what the hell is going. Like, what's the point of all this?
It does seem like they didn't have I don't think they were like grabbing 5 stars left and right. I can't say that I was, following the UNC recruiting like I am with Patriots free agency or the draft or anything like that, but I didn't see a ton of, let's say, like splash additions as well. They lost their star running back. He's in the draft this year. They lost a tight end in Bryson Nesbitt. I know he wasn't like the greatest player, but like they did lose some NFL talent, let's call it. Mm-hmm. Even after playing what you have said, it was the worst football game.
Oh my God.
You can remember. So, and doesn't seem like they're getting the Tennessee quarterback.
They're out. I saw a graphic.
Which
UNC
doesn't
is
shock
out.
me. Like when I mean, that's another situation that it's kind of a third rail to talk about it, but this does feel like it has to become less of a free for all, I think. In college football. I am 100% on board with players having getting paid, having the freedom, but like when you have more freedom than the NFL and you can just leave at any moment and be like, well, who's going to pay me more to be your quarterback? That can't work either.
No. And it's like A, I want them paid. B, I want them to have the same freedom as coaches, because that was always bullshit. Where
Right.
like the coach can leave
Yeah.
and coach somewhere else, but the players had to wait a year. But I think it was Scott Van Pelt put it well, because like I struggle sometimes with words, which isn't great. But it was, I don't know if he had talked to some. It was just a tweet I remember seeing, and the way it was phrased stuck with me, which was, it's like every player enters free agency every year.
Yeah.
And it's just hard to maintain that. There has to be some level of commitment, and maybe that's contracts. If you sign a contract, like like whatever you get in your NIL can tie you to a school for a certain amount of time, and if you break it, there's maybe you do have to sit out a year. I don't know the answer, but that's like the simplest thing, where you try to build a program, and then even before the season ends, not to talk about BC football again, but Castellanos, we talked about him, got benched with like a week left in the season, boom, in the transfer portal. It's like, you can finish the season, man. Like I don't know what's going on. So there's got to be some commitment, because
it's not a structure that can work. Like if Jalen Hurts after winning the Super Bowl was like, all right, who wants to pay me more to be their quarterback? Like, that's not a sustainable system.
Yeah.
And like Josh Allen after he had his breakout year in 2020 or whatever was like, hey, okay, I had a good year. Who wants to pay me to be their quarterback for the next year? Like that, it's foolish to think that would work. And they're trying to play this middle ground of NIL where it's like, it doesn't work this way. So you have to either go all in and, like you said, have contracts and be like an NFL system, or the alternative is that players aren't getting paid, which no one wants. So yeah, it's silly.
Or you bring back the sitting out a year, which I think is the worst rule in the world. So
yeah, the only restriction being in place is that you can't go within conference. Is like, okay, well, there's more than one conference. So
for now,
that is true. Yeah, but like not being able to go to an SEC team is not a big enough restraint at that point.
There's a lot though. I should probably not talk more about it, because there's a lot I don't understand. Like Southern Methodist paid so much money to join the ACC that I don't know what the hell's going on in college sports anymore. Like I know Stanford's also in the Atlantic Coast Conference. I don't know how good you are at geography. They're not
good at geography, actually.
Yeah, Stanford not on the Atlantic Coast, famously. So
it's actually on the Pacific Coast.
There's a few things that need to get figured out. That being one of them. But ultimately, the best part of this is I really don't care about college football. But I know it means so much to so many people that it is kind of crumbling before them.
Yeah. Patriots just tweeted out happy birthday, Coach Belichick. So happy birthday to Bill Belichick today.
April 16th, one day after my daughter Olive. I didn't know that.
There we go. All right. Well,
so we should, if we're going to talk about Bill, this wasn't in the plans. We don't have plans.
I have a list.
They buried, I'm not aware of them. They buried the hatchet, so to speak, Kraft and Parcells with the Hall of Fame thing. And I think maybe the radio was talking about it. I'm trying to think, because they were talking about Team Hall of Fame, and they put Brady right in, and they're not putting Bill right in. And it's like the book. I think the genesis of the conversation was Bill not mentioning Kraft in his book, and it's like, I say with all due respect, because honestly, I'm not trying to be a dick, but you're both old guys.
Right.
Just figure it out. What are you doing? You both won. You won 6 Super Bowls. Who cares who gets more credit? Who cares about who blames what? Honestly, Doug, imagine doing something, right? Just anything, accomplishing something, and then being all hung up on 50 things that don't matter about it. So Kraft and Belichick, I'm sure Kraft, we saw in the roast, tried to smooth it over. Belichick was pissed.
Months later, said that he was fired. Said that he fired Belichick on the radio.
True.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of what is Bill most mad about, do you think? Getting fired, period? Because I know he's a little different up top, but he's got to look at the results and understand that people get fired. Most people would have been fired a year earlier than he was. He got an extra year and went 4-13 with it.
I also wonder, because he didn't have to play along with the whole mutual parting of ways type of thing at the time. So there's part of me that wonders if he looked at the Patriots roster at the time and was like, I could probably win quicker with like the Cowboys or the Falcons or something right now. And like didn't hate the idea of getting fired at that point. Didn't hate the idea of a mutual parting of ways.
Yeah.
So, but I think there's I don't know. I don't know what he's most mad about. I think currently like Kraft saying that it was a mutual parting of ways and then going on the radio and saying we fired him
Yeah.
would make me mad if I was Bill Belichick.
I guess too, like we don't know. This is all like speculation that like ownership made them take Mac Jones if that was an issue, and then Mac Jones was bad and they lost with him, and then he was held
Or, like,
accountable
wouldn't
for
let
it.
him
It's like,
trade him. Like I don't know any of that stuff as fact. So
Right.
yeah, it's hard to get into that.
but I just feel like, and then like people say the Apple TV series. I've been the only one on this camp that, for as bad as that might have made Belichick look, like Kraft ate shit in that documentary quite a bit. Like he said, I was a Drew guy, and if it didn't work out with Brady, I was ready to fire Bill. Like he admitted that. He said like I was hoodwinked by Aaron Hernandez. I don't know, like
it did still paint Bill in a bad light, though. I would say.
Sure.
I would also make the case that Bill didn't do himself many favors in the interview process.
right.
Yeah.
And maybe he sniffs out, but I never saw that as like a hit piece. And I'm like the only one that sees it that way, and I don't know what part of my brain is missing to interpret it that way, but I just feel like, yeah, like there was a whole Spygate episode,
Right.
so maybe that, but it's like that also, I don't know, like
I
Kraft,
don't think it gave Bill enough credit within the documentary. So like that doesn't reach the level of hit piece, but like
right? That's the point where I would say, Bill, if
Yeah.
you're mad about that, grow up, enter 7th grade, pal.
I guess, but like
I didn't
always go
get
back to
enough
the fact-
credit.
I always go back to the fact that like, well, I mean, it's like it's supposed to be the definitive documentary of the Patriots, and to like ignore the things that he did. I always go back to the fact that they didn't even cover in the documentary them hiring Bill, which was like, that's Kraft's best case for the Hall of Fame.
Right.
But they didn't even
That was
cover
in-
the hiring of Bill.
That was in the 2 Bills. Remember that one?
Yeah.
The 30 for 30. So I don't know if they don't. But I would say to anyone expecting that to be the definitive documentary, I was like, did you read the book? Because
Right.
it was not the definitive book.
Yeah, I think I read about half the book, and then was like, I would live through this. I'm good. While we're talking about all of this, because this was lower on my list, we've not talked about the Patriots Hall of Fame nominees yet. Adam Vinatieri, Logan
Do you vote?
Jenkins, and Julian Edelman. I'm not part of the nomination process.
What the hell?
Which I
It's
don't
bull.
mind that much.
No.
Just because
Doug,
I don't know what the criteria is. The criteria literally might be asking, which I haven't done.
true. But I'm
Like-
saying, you say you don't mind not being part. Do you realize there's free lunch involved? Like,
Ooh, okay. Well, next time I'll ask. But like, it genuinely might just be like showing interest in being part of the process. And I've never spoken to anyone about being part of the process before.
true.
But maybe I'm crazy. Maybe
Yeah.
I have a hole in my brain. I just think like Edelman's kind of the obvious answer this year, and then Vinatieri gets in next year, and then you kind of figure it out from there.
Yeah.
And, like, I understand people think it like Vinatieri played such a massive role in the first three Super Bowls. They don't win them without him. I could make the case that they probably don't win the last three without Edelman as well. But like Vinatieri was a massive part. It was like basically Brady, Belichick, and Vinatieri for those first three Super Bowls that everyone gives credit to. But he then left for the Colts for half of his career.
Right.
And Edelman didn't. So I really don't blame fans if they vote in Edelman this time around, because he was the lifer. He was the Patriots lifer. He was like the Patriots guy. I don't know. So I won't hate it if Edelman gets in first ballot.
I agree with you. I was trying to look something up with one hand. It didn't work out. I wrote a story probably after 2018 where I made the case that in the full dynasty era, which is 20 years,
Yep.
the most important player for the Patriots, you got any guesses?
Was it Roman Pfeiffer?
It was Tom Tupa, the legend of Tom Tupa, that carried through. No, it was Tom Brady. Was number one. And then I made the case, like, you can argue that Julian Edelman was the second most important player. And the biggest reason is because in 2014, in 2016, in 2018, his postseasons were outrageous.
Yeah.
Like, he had outrageous numbers. He had a Super Bowl MVP. And there's obviously room for debate, argument, whatever. But he was critical, and in 17 he was out. They didn't win the Super Bowl. Granted, they should have. But he was, when it comes to the banners that hang, he has his hands over those as much as anyone. And you could make a case. Obviously, the first one never happens without Vinatieri. That he was critical in the second one, and technically did kick the game-winning points in the third Super Bowl as well. So I don't think anyone's arguing Vinatieri shouldn't be in. And ultimately, if he gets in sooner, it's not a crime. But I do think Edelman was more important. As silly as that may sound, it's like, I don't want to diminish the role of the kicker, but Edelman was playing minutes 0 to 60, and it mattered. So, and poor Mankins, who was the most badass football player, like in another market, he'd probably have a statue, but because his career nestled perfectly without a Super Bowl. But they had to get Tim Wright in here in 2014.
That's true. They can't win without Tim. But 2005 to 2013 for like a Hall of Fame level guard is just so unfortunate.
And it's like the complete mirror is Wilfork, 04 to 14. Like he got two and was in that same exact era, but got 2 Super Bowls, and Mankins didn't get any, which is unfortunate. But
so to further your point about Edelman, and I would actually throw, like, the Patriots didn't lose a Super Bowl when they had Tom Brady, Dante Hightower, and Julian Edelman healthy. If you take out Hightower and Edelman, somehow then they lost Super Bowls. But like, they won a Super Bowl without Rob Gronkowski. They could not win a Super Bowl without Julian Edelman or Dante Hightower. So that's obviously not definitive, and Rob Gronkowski was a better player than Julian Edelman, but like, Edelman was massive in those playoff runs, and he was a wide receiver, and Adam Vinatieri was a kicker. And Adam Vinatieri was possibly the most important kicker in NFL history, but he was still a kicker, and Julian Edelman was still a wide receiver. And there's a reason why there's many, 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 many more wide receivers in the Pro Football Hall of Fame than there are kickers.
Let me remind, I found my story. Great job by me. So, my case was this, is that like, not only did he have the stats, but he also had the moments. So in 2014, he threw the touchdown pass to Danny Amendola, which still to me was the best game I ever played at Gillette Stadium. That was a pass where it was like there was a gasp in the crowd. Remember, like it went, because for at that point 6 years, or 5 years, whatever it was, you heard every single Patriots broadcast, the former college quarterback Julian Edelman. And you're like, we get it, and you had never seen him throw a pass. So there was that. He had 98 yards and a 12-yard rush in the championship game a week later, and then in the Super Bowl, he had the catch with Cam Chancellor hitting him on a 3rd and 14 conversion, and then he caught the game-winning touchdown in that Super Bowl. And he averaged 16 yards on punt returns in that playoffs. And then 2 years later in the playoffs, which was the fingertip catch against the Falcons, divisional round 8 for 137, championship round 8 for 118 and a touchdown, Super Bowl 5 for 87 with 3 punt returns. It's like every year. And then obviously in 2018, he wins Super Bowl MVP. And it's not as if that kid, remember the Chargers game? He had 151 yards in that playoff game. And then at the Chiefs, he had 7 for 96 with 3 punt returns for 38 yards. So it's just like those 3 Super Bowl runs, it really was, he was a driver. He wasn't a passenger. And I just feel like that is enough to get early enshrinement in the Patriots Hall of Fame.
He led the league. Obviously it's a limited teams, but like, he was the playoff leader in receptions and yards in 2014, 2016, and 2018. And there were other teams involved in the playoffs those years. There were teams that did not have first-round buys, and there were better players like Rob Gronkowski, even on Julian Edelman's roster at those times. Mm-hmm. And he was still leading the NFL in receptions and yards in those 3 Super Bowl years. So, no, I think, like, if anything, I don't know, Edelman hasn't become underrated by any means, just because, like, he didn't have a Pro Football Hall of Fame career, and that's at least become like a conversation when he retired. But I don't know, like, among fan favorites in Patriots history, like, that guy's got to be he's got to be top 5.
Well,
right?
There's also, absolutely. I mean, whose jersey do you see in the crowd now still? Because he sort of lasted beyond the end of it all.
Yeah. But, and he's done a great job with media post-career, where he's still just as likable as he was. And I would say that once he started doing those like smoothie time videos and burger time and everything, like he was a player who was really smart about being willing to show his personality during his playing days, because I think that only like that made fans like him more than they liked Wes Welker, despite Wes Welker being a better player. Like, and I think that other players should look at what he did and try to imitate that, because it really did have a profound impact on his post-playing career.
In all the time that Edelman spent working on his craft behind a microphone, Vinatieri was just doing chest press. He was just doing the bench. He was just lifting. So, you know, to each their own.
Can I bring something up also about Wes Welker right now? The Patriots outside linebackers coach was best friends with Wes Welker at Texas Tech. His name is Mike Smith. They were, I think he said, the best men in each other's weddings. And he also said that I think Mike Smith named his son after Wes Welker. So like they are best friends. He said that when he was a coach on the Jets, him and Rex Ryan would like prank call Wes Welker before games and be like, we're going to put like this guy on you. We're going to double, triple. It puts the foot comments in a different light, right? That like Rex Ryan had this like kind of weird jokey relationship with Wes Welker. I don't remember what year the foot comments were, but like
it was 2010 because he was benched.
Yeah, Mike Smith was on the Jets during that era.
So yeah, it was friendly fire more than it was.
It was like possibly like a reaction to like Rex Ryan like prank calling him before a game. You know,
that's interesting. I had one thing on the Hall of Fame thing before is like. There's actually no rule in the world. Like they're not dictated or governed by like NATO. You could put two guys in.
Right.
Because like Kraft decides like Dante can get in. Kraft decides that Parcells can get in. He could say, you know what? Two players to get in because they kind of have to, because every year you've been running into this for like 6 years.
Yeah.
Where there's two
like people have to wait way too long. Yeah.
Right. And it's just like you could be like, you know what, Adam and Julian will both get in. And then I had a question for you about Wes Welker, which is why does he bounce around so much in the NFL? Because he just joined the Commanders coaching staff. He had been on the Dolphins. We know he was on the Niners. He started with the Texans. He's got like a 2-year lifespan in his coaching. What's going on with that, do you think? Answer.
I don't know.
Damn it.
But I think that we did learn through the Troy Brown era that sometimes the best wide receivers are not the best coaches.
Yeah. But he's been employed with good teams.
Yeah, he has been. So yeah.
Maybe, you know what, I have an answer. Maybe he was like, I would like to never talk to Tyreek Hill for the rest of my life. I need a new job. But he was with the Niners 2019 to 2021. That was a good run.
Then left with Mike McDaniel for the Dolphins, but then left was removed from the organization. So I don't know. It's a good question. Anything left over from Bray? Oh, I did want to talk about Vrabel's comments, and I have a hard out at 10 on this one. So
hard out.
We've got 14 minutes. I'm sure we'll figure out a way to fill them. But Mike Vrabel's comments about when Phil asked him,
starting left tackle,
is there a left tackle that you would feel comfortable at number 4 overall? And I think that Vrabel really proved why he's an experienced head coach by deflecting as well as possible by saying, I believe that there's players who could start at left tackle who will be available there. And then like finish the question by being like, so if you're asking me if there's a starting tackle at number 4 overall, I would say yes. For overall, first of all, you're buzzing right now, which I'm sorry to listeners of the podcast. I think you're no longer buzzing now at this point. Sorry if there's buzzing in the background. Blame it all on Mike. But first of all, his answer was a deflection. He didn't want to say if the Patriots were willing to take a tackle at number 4 overall, which there's a number of reasons why it makes sense to deflect from that question. First of all, you don't want to give away your plans to other teams in case you want to move around and trade. Second of all, you don't really want to say, yes, there's a tackle worth taking at number 4 overall, and then to not take that player and then have fans being like, hey, you said there was the tackle worth taking number 4 overall. That's your biggest area of need. Why didn't you take that guy? But I also feel like him saying that like it's a premium position and there's someone at number 4 overall that we would feel comfortable starting, I feel like was a roundabout way of saying, yes, there's a player there's a tackle that we would feel
Really?
comfortable taking number 4 overall. Just by like throwing in the premium position, because like in all reality, how many day one starters are there at premium positions? Left tackle is one of those. So that's my roundabout way of saying how I took his comments. Did you take them differently?
I took it as a very lackluster support of Will Campbell, personally.
Interesting.
It felt like, yeah, there's a lot of guys that can start at the position maybe in the first round, and that's what you want. It didn't feel like, yeah, there's a guy. So I don't know. And again, no matter what Vrabel in the front office might be thinking, he wasn't going to tell us.
Right.
So I think your first point is dead on, where it's like, this is, I mean, it's coach speak, but you're trying to parse through. And the fact that I think it was sort of like, I think it caught him by surprise a little bit, the question, because it was like sort of rapid fire. It wasn't a long-winded, rambling one. It was just like, is there a starter at number 4, or is there a left tackle you'd be comfortable taking number 4? It was direct. So I don't know that you don't want to go overboard in gleaning, but I was like, oh, that didn't sound like he's too excited about that possibility. But that's just one interpretation. Yeah,
I think overall we're like diving too deep into coach speak, where obviously he's trying not to let his feelings be known. But I can understand that to some degree. I'm like, I was just rereading his answer, and it is like not the greatest support of the idea. He said, I think there's some starting tackles that certainly will come in and start in the NFL. I think that's really what you start to look for, impact players. When you start picking that high, what they're going to do for you, what's the impact, what's the position. You talk about premium positions. That's where you weigh all the circumstances and end up making that pick. Do I think that there are starters in this draft at left tackle? Yes, I do. So yeah, it's not very definitive, but I think throwing in that phrase premium position does change things a little bit for me. That like finding a day one starter at left tackle, you're going to have to take that player pretty high. That being said, I'm not sold on Campbell. I'm not sold on Armand Membu. I'm not sold on Mason Graham. I'm not sold on Tyler Warren. I'm not sold on Jalen Walker. I'm not sold on Ashton Genty.
Damn, I was like, that means you're an Ashton Genty guy.
This is not the greatest spot for the Patriots to be in. Like I know we've talked about it way too many times, but like everyone I just talked about is undersized, right? Like everyone. Jalen Walker was 237 pounds. Will Campbell has a 33-inch wingspan. Armand Membu is 6'4". Mason Graham weighed in at like 295 pounds. I think Ashton Genty is even like, isn't he only like 210 pounds or something like that?
I don't know. He's a big boy though.
Yeah, he looks pretty built. And then like Ted McMillan.
Well, let's just for the sake of, I just quickly Google it. Let's go back to 2000. Ready? I'm gonna buzz through these. These are all the guys that were picked 4th overall, and you can kind of get a sense of where this year fits. All right.
Yeah.
So I'll do it as quickly as possible. Peter Warwick,
not good.
Justin Smith,
good.
Mike Williams, Dwayne Robertson. Not familiar. I'm not familiar with Dwayne Robertson at all. Phillip Rivers, familiar with him.
Good.
Cedric Benson, DeBrickashaw Ferguson, Gaines Adams, Darren McFadden, Aaron Curry, Trent Williams, AJ Green, Matt Khalil, Lane Johnson, Sammy Watkins, Amari Cooper, Ezekiel Elliott, Leonard Fournette, Denzel Ward, Clelin Ferrell. Clelin? Is that short for McClellan? Andrew Thomas, Giants, 2020.
Good.
Kyle Pitts,
not good.
Sauce Gardner, Anthony Richardson, Marvin Harrison Jr.
Good. Yeah, it's kind of a 50-50 proposition.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah.
It's not as great as you would think in the top 4. And like part of that is the crapshoot. I'm sure a lot of those guys were highly touted, like
absolutely.
And didn't quite pan out. But yeah, it's a little
Cleland, I think it's Cleland. Farrell was definitely an overdraft. That was like the Mike Mayock era of the Raiders, where it was like, what the heck are you guys doing over there?
Yeah, I mean Fournette is a good case of a great running back in college that didn't turn into much in the pros. So I mean, granted, he is playoff Lenny, right? That was the whole thing.
Yeah, he was a guy who had like a decent career, but certainly was
not for the Jaguars.
4 overall pick. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, it's as much of a crapshoot as anything. So.
Vrabel also talked about Joe Milton.
That's speaking of coach speak.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
I've come around because his answer, as you'll get to, it's come to just be a middle finger to the people asking questions, which I don't take personal offense to it. Like, the job is to deflect and sort of distract and not give straight answers because that's not what a football coach is there to do. But when you say we did what's best for the team, it is officially just a middle finger and said like leave me alone. And you can't say anything to it. It's just like, all right.
Yeah. Ben Vol, like it was Stacy had said last question, and then Bill Burt asked, Mike used the term covet earlier, and you just used it again, blah, 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 blah. And then, so that was supposed to be the last question, and then Ben Volen chimed in with a last question.
He said, please.
Second last question. He did say, please, and said, Joe Milton, why trade him when you guys did? And Vrabel said, well, we felt like his reps were going to be decreased as we worked through the offseason. We felt like, just like every other decision, that we're going to try to do what's best for the team. And that's the decision that we ultimately made. So we're excited to move forward with Drake and Josh. And they made a Drake and Josh joke. Yeah, not a whole lot to glean from that one, but I would say that I've repeated over and over again, but like it's a new regime, and it's entirely possible that they did not feel the same way about Joe Milton that Gerard Mayo did and that Alex Van Pelt did, and that you look at this situation and say, we are selling as high as we possibly can. He probably just had the greatest game of his NFL career. What better time to trade him? Yes, you could trade him later, but then you're getting a future 5th round pick, which is less valuable than a current 5th round pick. And if you want to move around the board right now, then you need extra picks that are tradable. And that's why it made sense to me.
Wow. Speed Joe Milton takes. Yeah, I think one of the funnier offshoots of the Belichick era was when be like, well, we did what's best for the team.
Yeah.
At some point, people would be like, why was that what's best for the team? And he'd be like, It's like, all right, fair enough. There's just really no questioning that answer. So no great mysteries were solved in that. But I do respect your heart out, but we're not at 55, but this would be a 55er. I did bring a 55 topic, which is I saw Mark Hoppus the other night.
Yeah, how was that?
So it was like
Blink 182 for those not in the know. Yeah,
one of
Bassist,
three
singer.
members of Blink 182. You know, the only one who's been in the band the whole time. I'm a pathetic little Blink 182 fan, so I bought a front row ticket by myself. Next to me was a lady, a young woman by herself, and next to me was another man by himself, which I found funny.
Front row crew.
3 cool people with friends, for sure have friends. But so he has a book that came out, a memoir, co-written with Dan Ozzie, and so they both spoke on stage. Now, what is your thought of what that would be like? Like what type of, not performance, but what type of interaction show would that be?
I didn't know. I haven't gone to a lot of like book signings, let's say, but I would guess that it would be like them talking through the book a little bit, then maybe like answering some questions from fans, maybe some sort, I don't know how big the crowd was, but some sort of book signing. That's, I think, what I would have expected out of an event like that.
It was too large, I think, for the sign. It was at Somerville Theater, so it was a pretty decent sized theater, but the thing was scripted, like start to finish. Like almost every word was scripted and planned. The questions were pre-written and there were slides ready for all of them. And it was, I don't know, I saw Mark's like controlling process. Like when you see them now and they have their screen behind them and like the words and everything, like it was basically a small scaled down version of that, but it was kind of lame that it was so scripted. Like if you went to see it in Brooklyn, it was the same thing. If you went to see it in Philly or whatever, like it was just the same exact. So it was a little lame in that regard, but it was cool. He's got an interesting life, an interesting book. I'm like halfway through the book. So, but it was just like, you could tell Mark is more comfortable with doing the like corny scripted conversation than Dan was. Because he didn't pull it off as well. Like, what do you mean by that? And then like it set up the next punchline. So yeah, it was a little disappointing, I guess. But
interesting. Yeah.
It was cool. It was a tidy 90 minutes, and
that feel like, and like we don't script this podcast. I don't know if you guys know that. This is not all us reading off a script. I feel like scripting it makes it so much harder and more challenging. Like if I were to do that, I would not want to script it because I wouldn't want to take the effort to do that. I feel like I would be able to do it easier to not script it and to make it a little bit more off the cuff. Like,
well, no,
that shows the amount of planning and like how badly they wanted it to be scripted to be willing to go through that work. I would say.
Right. I guess. Yeah. And it's like, he's probably worried about a show. Like he wants the show to be good.
Right. Yeah.
But like, I would want to script it if I was talking about like biology, because I wouldn't,
right,
but if it was my life, I'd probably be a little bit more comfortable freestyling a little
Yeah. No,
and not having these planned setups and stuff. But whatever. I mean, it's his show, not mine.
Yeah, for sure. That's interesting. Has he talked in the book about Boxcar Racer and Angels and Airwaves?
I have not gotten to Dude Ranch yet. I'm through Buddha and I'm through Cheshire Cat, which we had talked about. Cheshire Cat, I think you're like, I don't need to listen to that anymore. And it's like, yeah, it's a piece of crap, really, recording quality wise. And you read the book and you're like, it's crazy that you and I ever listened to a album that came from that. Like, it should have never reached us.
And I think we have said, like, there's like 4 or 5 or maybe even 3 or 4 songs that are like worth continuing to listen to, but overall it's not something that you need to turn on and listen to all the way.
Yeah, it's just crazy that it ever reached us because of how like haphazard it was put together and like how much they were just slacker kids.
I read somewhere that he referred to that as their first album. That's not like Buddha was their first album, right?
Well, they made the Fly Swatter demo, and then I think Buddha was mostly those songs. So maybe he didn't, but Buddha was a full album for sure.
Right. Yeah.
But it also was even recorded even less professionally.
Yes.
So
yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I think Buddha might have gotten them their signed.
So that was their first one on like a label, probably Cheshire Cat. Yeah.
I'm thinking that, but it might have been Buddha. But you know, they recorded Buddha, self-published it, and then might have gotten picked up, and then it was distributed a little bit. But it was interesting. He talked about how he helped find Saddam Hussein. He takes credit for that.
Nice.
So, which I think I had read before, but all sorts of stuff. Yeah,
that's great. Okay, well, I've got a heart out. We will talk to you guys again
Thursday night.
We'll see you Thursday night. We'll see you Thursday night, Vitamin C in Weymouth. We'll talk all about Blink-182 and Newfound Glory and Rancid and Green Day and The Offspring and all those bands. Just kidding. Maybe we'll a little bit. But yes, tickets are $25. They're on Eventbrite. We'll put the link to the tickets and the auction and raffle items in the description. And I think that covers everything.
I think so.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm about to have a meeting with Andrew and Fitzy about that show. So we will talk to you guys again soon. We'll see you on Thursday. Goodbye.
Bye.